Welcome to Ghost Education 101, where curiosity meets experience and the doors to the entire paranormal landscape are finally open. Hosted by Dr. Heather Leigh and Dr. Tiffany Frazier, this series is built for everyone who wants to understand the unexplained the right way. Whether you're just stepping into the unknown or you've been investigating for years, this is the place where you can sharpen your approach, deepen your understanding, and cut through the misconceptions that have overrun this field for far too long. Each episode walks you through the full spectrum of paranormal activity. Classic hauntings, intelligent spirits, cryptids, elemental beings, poltergeist phenomena, and the modern challenges investigators face today. We break it all down. The science, the method, and the mystery, without dumbing it down and without drifting into theatrics. Grounded in research, history, and real-world investigation, Ghost Education 101 is your classroom, your laboratory, and your gateway into the most compelling unexplained experiences on record. Learn, question, discover. Welcome to Ghost Education 101. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. Heather Leigh and Dr. Tiffany Frazier.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Ghost Education 101. How's it going, Tiffany?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Good. We missed you last week.
Oh,
It's
I
been
watched
2
the
weeks since
episode.
we've been on air together.
How are you feeling?
A lot better. Still a little
Okay,
stiff, but it's a slow. I forgot how slippery ice was. That's what I get for living in Florida for so long.
Yeah, it's rough.
It is.
I'm glad you're
How was your
feeling better.
vacation?
It was good. It was freezing. It was not the pleasant escape to Florida like it should have been. It was
Exactly.
I think there was one day, I think it was our first full day there. The high that day was, I think, 32.
Okay.
But it didn't hit 32 until like 4 p.m.
Oh.
So luckily the parks had all the gloves out and the scarves, and we were able to buy some, and we made the best of it. But it was, that day was brutal. It was rough. But
yeah, I can only imagine, because I know we were 3 below zero, and then but now we're 80. We're 85. Yesterday we hit 90. So it's our weather's crazy. But anyway, I know tonight is going to be a fantastic show. I've been absolutely looking forward to this. I have had several members from this organization on separately on both this show and my other show that I had. So I don't know if you're excited to bring everyone on, but we do have the members of CPRI, the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation. We have Brad Bradley, Alan Sloneker, Dr. Jack Trammell, and LaDonna Gorham. So let's bring everybody on, and we can get them to all introduce themselves one by one before we get everything going. How's it going, everyone?
Good.
Great.
Hey, okay.
Okay, so since you guys all work together, I'm going to let you duke it out as to who goes first to introduce yourself. The typical questions we want to know is who you are, what specialty in the paranormal field you kind of focus on, and what got you started.
Alan says he can't hear you, but I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can.
That's an Alan problem then.
Always.
So LaDonna, why don't you go first?
Okay. I have been with CPRI probably the longest from anybody in this group. I'm one of the old timers. This is my 21st year with CPRI. I am not a scientist by trade. I'm an educator. I have a master's degree in psychology. So I really like to focus in on the human element, and got a lot of stories there. But I just love working with CPRI. When I was wanting to get involved in doing this more seriously, I purposely searched for a group that looked at it through the lens of science. And I've been very lucky, and I have learned so much from everybody in this group. I'm just very lucky to be a part of it.
All right, Jack, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Jack Trammell. I work at Mount St. Mary's University in Maryland. I'm a sociology professor, and I had a number of interesting experiences as a child with the paranormal. And my parents basically told me to be quiet and not talk about it anymore. And so when I got my PhD and became a real scientist or a social scientist, I decided, nobody can tell me I can't study this anymore. So I did a big study of 203 ghost hunters from around the world to find out what made them tick, and got involved with CPRI probably between 10 and 15 years ago, not as long as LaDonna, but been with them quite a while. And the guys like to joke that I'm studying them instead of the ghosts, but I'm also interested in the ghosts too. So that's me.
Well, there's more to that story, but I'll I'll pick on him later. Go ahead, Alan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, I couldn't hear Jack and I can't hear Heather.
Can you hear me?
no.
Pardon?
There was something that popped up that said you had to unmute.
I am unmuted.
Yeah.
No, but you had to unmute something else on there.
Well, you go ahead, Alan, and introduce yourself. Who are you, and what's your role in what we do, and that kind of thing.
Okay. I'm Alan Slonaker. I've been with CPRI now for 19 years. So I'm probably the second oldest person hanging around this group. And kind of a lot like LaDonna, I've always been interested in this kind of thing. Since as far back as I can remember, I was checking out like all the paranormal books I could at the library when I was a little kid in grade school. And then I was like, man, I really want to get involved in something like that. And I was probably like so many other people spurred on by ghost hunters and going, wow, we can go out and do that. But I wanted to find a group that was approaching it from a critical thinking, scientific standpoint. I didn't want to just be kind of in the experiencer realm. I wanted to get more answers to what was going on. And unfortunately, almost 20 years later, I probably have more questions than I got answers. But one thing that has been wonderful is it's been an incredible journey with this group of people. I could not ask for better people to work with and spend hours in dark rooms with. I know that sounds weird, but
Yeah, I don't think we needed to know that.
But it's been great, and I've learned just so much from everybody. It's been a wonderful experience, and I hope to do it for another 20.
All right. Well, I guess I'm next. I'm Brad Bradley. As you can see on the screen there, I'm the CPRI Research Director. What Jack and Alan and LaDonna didn't say was they're all members of the board because we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have a board of directors that handles all of our finances and business. And Jack is vice president, and LaDonna is our secretary, and Alan is like the member at large. And we operate as a nonprofit business. So we actually operate more like a college or university than we do what you see on TV and things like that. But my background, I came into this, basically I was a chemist for Dow Chemical Corporation for a long time. And I had a chance to go to New Hampshire to the inn that Jason and Grant owned from Ghost Hunters. And I saw something there during one of those get-togethers they had that I just could not explain. I was just fanboying it. I didn't have any idea what I was getting into. I was a huge skeptic, like Kenny Biddle level skeptic. And I went into this house, into this building, and saw something that I couldn't explain. I mean, it was in my face. It was like, holy cow, what did I just see? So they got me hooked up with CPRI. Our founder, Bobby Atterstein, actually interviewed me. And she brought me on as like a tech person, and then I ended up in the role that I'm in now. And what I do is I heard all the experiments and stuff, and the people, and well, yeah, I got to deal with Alan, but that's kind of what I do, and organize our data collection projects, and try to prod people into doing new experiments, things like that, going down different routes. So, and we all have our own idea of, we all have our own theories that we want to look into. And what I try to do is I try to make sure that whatever experiments we run on the theories don't interfere. So that's essentially what I do.
Yeah. Carrie says Alan is a full-time job.
That much is certain. And Carrie Magner, you couldn't be more correct, my dear.
Yeah. And then real quick in the comments, we do have one of our
audio issue here.
regular followers. He is watching us. Hello, Antone. Welcome to the show. And Alan apparently still can't hear me. I hope everyone else can hear me.
I can.
Okay. You guys will just have to translate for me to Alan.
I can't.
Alan, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can't hear Heather or Tiffany.
What we need to start doing
he
is
can't hear me either.
Oh, we just need to move our mouths and make him think that he's going crazy.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we'll do. We're all going to move our mouths, Alan, and
Let me
make you
look
think
at
you
his
can't hear
mic
anything.
settings here.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can't hear.
His mic is on, so I'm not sure.
Maybe I should go out and come back in. Would that
Yeah.
work?
Probably.
Yep.
All right. I'll do that. I'll go out and come back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Log off and
I can-
log back on.
Yeah.
I was
Log
looking
off
at all the
back.
settings. I can't find anything that would help him. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he's
Now
on
we
his
can-
phone, and I know
we can talk
StreamYard
bad
does
about
not
him
look.
now.
I know
Talk bad.
StreamYard doesn't work well with phones, so
No.
Yeah.
that might be an issue.
No, I had to use my phone last week because we lost internet at home.
Oh
So I
no!
was using and halfway through the show, the guest had to host the show solo because I completely lost everything.
That's
I
fun.
felt so bad. But one thing someone did mention to me earlier before we even started the show is a lot of people miss you, Brad, on Ghost Education 101 because you were one of our original educators when we started this whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I'm glad to be back.
Yep. Yeah, and you come
Okay.
back anytime I call you and say, "Hey, we need a guest," and you're
There you
always
go.
coming
I'll
back
come right
on, and he
back.
still can't hear a word I'm saying.
And Alan, you still can't hear us at all. Can you get your computer?
He's just gonna sit there and smile the whole time.
I'm gonna text him.
Okay. Okay.
They're texting.
Because we were
This
chatting
is an
before the
issue
show, and
we've
he was hearing
never-
us perfectly fine.
Yeah, he was. This is an issue we've never run into before, so I don't see anything in the settings that can possibly help him. So
Nope. And I'm not tech support. I tell everybody that at work when they come to me with their phones. I'm like, I'm not tech support. Go find the person who is. So while Brad is doing his full-time job of taking care of Alan,
Yes.
I'm going to start off with he heard that, he smiled, or he's just laughing at the fact that. But I'm going to start off with my first question for you guys. And this was something that we talked about briefly before the show started when I asked you guys what you wanted to discuss. And Alan had brought up, I had posted on Ghost Education 101's page earlier today, the question of what's the first mistake that new investigators make? So I'm going to throw that question out to all of you guys to kick off the show.
All right. You're going to have to repeat that for me. I just told
Okay.
Alan to get off of that phone and get a computer.
No problem. It's basically, what is the first mistake that new investigators make when starting out in the field?
Gee, Jack.
Do we have time to
Well-
list that out? That's a show on its own.
we
No,
can.
I think the first mistake I made as an inexperienced investigator was assuming too quickly that I knew the cause of something. And there is an engineer that worked with us who said, you know, that ghostly voice you heard could be caused by 100 different things. And I was like, huh? And so I think a lot of introductory investigators probably encounter something strange and they immediately kind of assume, hey, that's a ghost, or, you know, that must be caused by X, Y, or Z. And the longer I've worked at this, the more I've realized that the explanations are probably more complicated than I even think at this point. And if there is such a simple thing as a dead person coming back to haunt us and say hello, that would be the easiest explanation. And so I think young investigators or inexperienced investigators probably are quick to jump to conclusions about what something is and what caused it. And after you get a little experience, you realize there's probably more to it than that.
You know, tagging onto that, you know, if you go the opposite direction, where you kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, you just assume, oh, that's the wind. Oh, that's the pipes. Oh, that's Alan's stomach, or what have you. Just assume that that's going to be it. And a lot of people that call themselves skeptics right now, that's what they do. They just throw it all out. And it's like, no, wait a minute. You know, I'm not saying anything spiritual. What I'm saying is we have to collect all the data, and we have to follow the data wherever it leads us. And if it leads us down a spiritual route, then that's where we go. If it leads us down let's say an Einsteinian physics route, that's where we go. You know, we just got to follow the data, because the data never lies. There are people that use data to lie, but.
And that's the key word that you're using that most people don't nowadays is data.
I just will jump in, and mine's more of like not a big picture answer, but more of a little concrete answer, because it absolutely drives me crazy when I see teams do this or see it on television. You know, you have a K2 meter and you're asking whatever's here to light up the lights, and everybody has their cell phones. They have all these electrical devices on them. And I'm just screaming at the TV, you know, walk away from the electronic device. And so it's really just, I would say in a nutshell, not understanding how the equipment works, or not truly understanding why a piece of equipment was created. A lot of the stuff that people that are investigating and paranormal use are off-label uses, and you know, you can't rely on a K2 meter to tell you if a ghost is there or not. Now, did I get excited when I had my K2 when I first started out and the lights? Absolutely. But as soon as I figured it out, it's because my cell phone was in my pocket, kind of lost its luster, and so we don't even use K2 meters.
We don't either
These days.
My husband, he yells at me because we can't watch the all the ghost shows anymore. He's like, you're no fun anymore.
And that was Anton's answer. His first mistake is getting their education from dramatic education ghost education shows.
Yes, drama. You know, the K2 measures, and there's Alan on his computer. He's not in the bar anymore.
And that was his question, so I can't wait to hear his answer. He wrote a short novel on our Facebook page about it.
Well, you know, in talking about that K2 meter and a lot of the off-the-shelf things, the K2 meter was originally designed to help find bad wiring and stuff. You know, it was an industrial tool, and you know, that's what it was used for. You know, most of the off-the-shelf ghost hunting equipment is based on fluctuations in electromagnetic field. And you can that can be an interference from all over. I don't know if you know who David Schumacher is, but Dave Schumacher wrote a really cool paper, and he did a lot of research into this about how there are spurious electromagnetic fields that come to us, I mean, from outer space and stuff like that, that will set off a K2 meter or set off any of those instruments that you have. A REM pod is really susceptible to this. And so, you know, he wrote a really nice paper, and I would put the link to it on there if I could remember what it was. But, you know, that kind of stuff is, Jack just dropped. He might be having internet issues, but because he looked like he was on his farm in Louisa, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He's got to go check on the chickens. They may have dropped the wire.
Oh, he's back. He's back. Shh, don't talk about him. He's back. Hey, there's Keith. But, you know, one thing to remember is we want to collect electromagnetic field data because we have to make sure that whatever we're seeing is not an interference from a a natural source or a man-made source or what have you. We need to make sure that these things are there. So we use stuff like this, and this is just a magnetometer, but this magnetometer is one of the most powerful things we've ever purchased. And we have 6 of them now. And, I'll put it up there. It's probably, I'm mirrored right now, so that's probably why that's kind of weird. But that magnetometer actually will not only look at electric fields, geomagnetic fields. There's a whole litany of things it looks at. Plus, it's able to discern if it's radio frequency. It looks at that too. If it's a radio frequency, like a spurious, like driving down the road, a police car on the highway out here, driving down the road, all he's got to do is key his mic. And even if it's not on the frequency your device is sensitive to, a lot of times it's powerful enough to bleed across frequencies and still set it off. So there is so much that we've got to look at, and that's why if we're going to look at that stuff, we got to have the right tool to look at it. And you don't get the tool just to get the tool. You get the tool to meet the requirements of your experiment.
Yeah,
that's what you do, and that's something a lot of people don't do. They just get the tool because it's a tool.
I think I found the paper. I'm going to post it in the comments.
Oh, Dave Schumacher's?
Here.
Yeah. And we had him present at a couple of things, and he was spot on. I mean, because I did some emergency communications work for the Virginia Department of Health here, and I'm very familiar with the RF bleed and that kind of thing. So and also stuff coming from space. It's a darn, especially with Starlink now.
Oh.
Starlink is the big ruiner of ghost hunting equipment from ghost hunting shops, let's say. Well, I've talked a lot, guys.
Well, I'll just jump in real quick and mention an example of that device you just showed everybody. At one of our locations, it's frequently reported that they hear music, and it's an empty house. It's not lived in. There's not much furniture in it. And we have pretty routinely recorded sounds of music, piano music, classical music, different kinds of music. And this device will enable us to see if that's coming from somewhere far away through radio frequency as opposed to being generated locally in that environment somewhere. And so that's a pretty important thing to be able to determine when people think that there's ghostly music. It may not be ghostly. And on the other hand, this device may reveal to us that there is no radio frequency causing that, and therefore we have to scratch our head and say, where is that music from?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Jack. That one time that we actually captured that radio, we didn't have these back then, but we actually captured a radio show from a station in Colorado at a location in Surrey, Virginia, and it was playing a Christmas show. Oh my gosh. Yep. Damon DeLuca right there. He's one of our members. Electromagnetic engineer, smart fellow. But and Dave Schumacher did recommend these things, and that's why we got them. Damon actually bought 4 of these for us. So go Dave. But anyway, we heard that, and I apologize if you hear that. My mom and my wife and daughter. There you go. My wife and daughter are in the hallway out here. But but they've got this radio station came across. They were playing music, a show from Christmas, and we picked it up in February. Now that was kind of odd. So we said, well, maybe it's Skipland. They call it Skipland when you skip stuff off of things from outer space, stuff like that, and it comes back and you pick them up later. But we checked with the radio station itself, and they said that they weren't playing a recorded show or anything like that. They were playing something totally different during the time frame before and after that would have occurred. So it was just really crazy.
At FCC records too, didn't we?
Yeah, we looked at the FCC records because everybody has to, they put in there what they broadcast for the day, if it's live, if it's recorded, that kind of stuff. So we checked all that stuff out, and it wasn't there. But if we'd have had one of these devices, we might have been able to tell if it was really RF or it was something else. which was interesting. So we didn't have one at the time, but we do now. So we constantly run these things all the time just to see if we can reproduce that. And lo and behold, we haven't yet. So, which is always the case. It's always the case. Just like that door opening, Jack. We haven't reproduced that yet either.
I know. No.
So, Alan, actually, that was your question that you had said earlier about the thing we posted on the Facebook page about what is the first mistake paranormal investigators make when starting out. So we'll get your take on that. And then I know Tiffany has a lot of questions that we need to also we're going to get into.
Well, going back to what you mentioned, because I've responded to that question today, and I think you have to take into account the safety aspects, potential liability aspects, to not just what you're doing, but where you are. Number one question: can I be where I am right now? Do I have permission to be there and do what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. That's a big one. But the other one I think is kind of, I know I spoke to the equipment stuff. I think Brad hit that really hard, but don't make assumptions. Yeah. I've been doing this for 19 years. I think collectively there's a lot of years on this panel. I don't think anybody sitting here tonight can tell you definitively what we're dealing with. What is haunting phenomena. And I think there's a lot of folks in the field, particularly people that maybe have less experience or newer to the field. They're assuming that we're dealing with the ghosts, the spirits of dead people. And I will say ghosts all the time, but I put that in air quotes, at least in my mind, every time, because we don't know maybe we are, maybe we're not, but don't assume that you're dealing with ghosts. Don't assume a place is haunted. Don't make any assumptions at all. Go in being completely open-minded. And that means being open-minded to not just the fact that there's something legitimately paranormal and weird going on, but also that there may be another answer. Mm-hmm. It constantly, I think we get a lot of questions. Well, but ghosts do this, or if you do that. And I know I've made a couple people upset in panels before where I've been like, we don't know.
Well, you're just mean, vicious, and cruel, though, Alan. That's what it is.
I learned from the best, Brad.
Yes, I know.
But
you've learned well, Padawan.
Don't know. Don't make, and then even I'm guilty of watching Travel Channel paranormal stuff, and I don't watch a lot of paranormal stuff. Just like I did an entire career in police work. I don't watch a lot of cop stuff because I'm deeply critical of the cop stuff or the paranormal stuff or whatever it is. And you see a lot of folks, a paranormal expert, in their like, what is a paranormal expert? I don't know.
I mean,
am I a paranormal expert? Probably not.
Well, you can have an expert in audio.
Okay? Yeah, exactly.
You can have an expert in electromagnetic fields, like Damon. Have somebody like that. You can have an expert in different parts of things, but claiming that all there is to know about the paranormal is something that just grates a muscle, and it's annoying. I too make people angry more often than not sometimes, because we get emails all the time with people from Florida. But
I don't live there anymore, so we're good.
Okay. But yeah, because we got, at one point, we got probably 50 emails from 50 different people that lived in Florida. And they all wanted to fight with me. And I'm like, I don't need this. So, I just let them go. And they didn't come back, but they wanted to fight with me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that thing hanging down in front of my camera I have outside, that's not a spider web, that's a demon. Mm-hmm. And that demon wants to have relations with my wife. I mean, literally, somebody said that to me.
We've gotten those too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
I have a
anyway,
dear friend of mine who always wants to know, kind of like, well, what are you doing? What's new, so forth, and will ask me a lot of questions, and then she gets mad at me because I'm like, she's like, well, what is it? I'm like, I don't know. Well, what do you think? I'm not sure. And she's like, well, damn it. I mean, it's got to. I'm like, I don't know. I can tell you what I think, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what I think could be completely meaningless.
I mean, everybody has to learn too that there's a difference between a theory and fact.
Yeah.
Huge difference. And people like to spout off theory as if it is fact. And I have a bunch of theories. I was raised in the Church of Christ. I have theories about how all this is going down. But at the same time, we have terabytes of data. And we had somebody that worked with NASA and Langley actually do a holistic look at our data. And she came back and said that all of this data could probably have, all these anomalies that we're picking up could probably have 100 different causes or more.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was a gut punch because it's like, oh man, what are we going to do about this? So all we can do is take off small bites of that,
Yeah.
theories that attack small bites of that. But,
Brad touched on something right there, because you talked about coming from that Church of Christ background.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think that we as an organization are actually pretty good about, something I'm very proud of, is we come from a variety of backgrounds, a variety of personal experiences, and very importantly, a variety of belief structures. From a spectrum of Christian denominations to Jewish to atheist, and all of us managed to take that, put it in a box, and walk away from it. It may help inform some discussions from time to time, or aid in a particular perspective, but we're able to compartmentalize that, not let that bias our decision making, and you always got to be careful of that. My background is as a criminal investigator. I may go into a particular investigation with, well, that's so-and-so did it, and that's probably how so-and-so did it. But I don't want to be biased by that. I don't want that to take me in a direction that the facts don't align with.
And I would like to just jump in and say something else that we do have personal experiences. I think every single one of us have experienced something while conducting our research, but we never claim that is evidence of paranormal activity. We need to have some correlation with some hard data. So that's kind of, if you're on a research project with us, somebody might feel like that they got touched, or, but if there's not an environmental factor that has changed at the same time, and there's no data to back up that, we still don't know what it was, but if we can get some data to back it up, even then we can't use that personal experience as a major, proof of anything. And so I know some people get frustrated that we don't include those sorts of things in our presentations and our panels and stuff. We don't talk a lot about our personal experiences because we don't have the data to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But to jump on that, and we keep jumping and jumping here, we have a member who gets touched pretty frequently, and we started turning a temperature gun on him that plumbers and insulators and other drywallers and people use. And we started documenting that when he was getting touched, the area on his shirt or skin was colder than the areas around it. And so that's when you begin to connect the science and the measurable data to the personal experience. And so LaDonna's right. We have tons of personal experiences, but we also try to design our science so that we can make something out of that, so that we can determine whether there's something to follow there.
Yeah, the personal experiences. I didn't, well, the personal experiences are exciting. Mm-hmm. Keeps you awake at at a research project when you've been sitting staring at a monitor for 6 hours. But the personal experiences, though, they actually feed our theory making process, our hypothesis creation process, so to speak. And if we have a personal experience, how did that happen? Come up with a theory. We're going to run the experiment, get the data that LaDonna was talking about, and then we might be able to figure out what the heck's going on there. Mm-hmm. So, and it's sent us down some rabbit holes, but I think though that we're actually getting closer and closer and closer the further we go into this. We're going down this one direction, and we just bought $5,000 worth of network thermal imaging gear so that we could approach this one direction. And that all came from a personal experience. That whole thing started initially from a personal experience. So I have had a personal experience. I've had more than one. Jack and I had one together. I kind of.
Are we going to talk about that here, or is that another?
That kind of sounded bad. Yeah. But anyway, we were standing next to a door, and at a particular location, and then all of a sudden, the door handle turned. You could hear the action popping, like it's like the door handle turned. You turn around, that door swinging open right beside of us, like 2 feet away from us. And of course, Jack at the time was brand spanking new. And I got to make fun of you about this, Jack. It's on camera. We have it recorded. He goes, "Well, that can't be paranormal." Brand spanking new.
Well, you left out the most important part of the story, which is we were standing there just BSing. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if that door opened right now?
Yeah, it's true. That's on the camera too. That whole thing
the doorknob turned.
Yes.
It physically turned and clicked and opened, and a smell of something like candles came out, and then the door closed. And so, it was more than just a personal experience. We had a mini DV going, and that's one of our clips we show sometimes.
Yeah, it was an amusing situation, though. It really was.
So to kind of carry on with newbies, and even for seasoned investigators, what question do you think paranormal investigators should be asking that they're not asking when they go in to investigate?
Are you talking about interaction with something or not? Are you talking about
whether they're interacting or they're just walking into a location and they're just trying to figure out what's going on?
Well, I know that a lot of them don't bother to ask. They go into private homes and they don't bother to ask, hey, are you guys on drugs? Things like that. They don't bother to ask that. Alan and I walked into a situation where there was a daggone bent spoon and a lighter laying there on the table, and it was a bong, wasn't it? Also on the same table.
We had a bong once. We had the guy that was on high dose antipsychotics.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think the question they got to ask themselves is why are they here?
I'm the queen of private homes and crazy people.
Yeah, it's true. They gravitate to LaDonna.
Yes.
Well, we don't do private homes anymore, but the stuff that LaDonna ran into was, oh my God. But you got to ask the question. You got to, because if you don't, then you're going to be stepping into a world of hurt.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. If
And
somebody
I
approaches
think,
us, I will ask them, in this, like, because we were still up until really the last couple of years fielding calls from the public wanting help, and we had turned that corner sometime before, where we weren't doing residential investigations, but we were still willing to talk to people about things they said were going on. And I would get a lot of those calls for like Central Virginia. And the first thing I would tell them is, well, we're not going to assume anything. We're not going to assume that your place is haunted. You know, we're not going to assume this is paranormal. Depending on how they reacted was very telling, because you'd have people that would get really mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm saying, I qualified it with, I'm not disbelieving you at all. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not calling you a liar, but I'm not going to assume that we're dealing with something paranormal. Not at this point. And then I would, if we talked further, I would ask them those questions. Look, I got to ask you some personal questions. I got to ask you about your medical history. I got to ask you about your psychiatric history. Well, Pitbull just came to visit me. You know, and, you know, depending on how they answer could be very telling.
Mm-hmm.
And LaDonna's got like a gazillion stories about this.
I mean, the number of times I was put in a situation where I either had to call the police or call Child Protective Services, you know, that's when it's not fun.
Yeah.
We all do this because we want to find out what's truly happening, but we also have to enjoy doing this. We spend a lot of time, hours and hours reviewing, you know, video and audio, and you know, it's taxing, it's expensive to buy equipment and all this. You don't want to throw in another variable where you're dealing with unstable people. And I don't want to say that everybody that contacted us was unstable. They just all seem to be in Northern Virginia, where I am. And so I encountered a lot of them. But, you know, you really, if you're in a group and you're going into people's homes, you need to be very careful that you are not being negligent in any way. Like, we followed up, I believe it was Alan, and you know, they followed up on a home where another group had come in and told the gentleman that he had a demon, and the man had a traumatic brain injury. That's why he was hallucinating. I had to get on the phone and call someone's priest, because this man that he had called us for help, he was seeing little Civil War soldiers living in his pillow, and a group came in and said that they had found something on video that this guy was seeing a little Civil War soldier living in his pillow. And he had decided he was going to climb up a smokestack at work and commit suicide. That's not fun. And that's messing with people's lives. And when people go in and tell people, oh, you've got a ghost, look what we have on video, and it's, you know, it's a bug. Like, it hasn't happened yet, but somebody is going to get sued. There's going to be a civil case, and, you know, we don't want to touch it anymore. Plus, if you're really going to look at this in a scientific way, somebody's home is not, you can't control the variables. We keep going back and back to places that, you know, Preservation Virginia properties that we know inside and out. We know the people that are working there. It's as close to a laboratory as we're going to get to be out in the field. And that's when you can conduct the research. When you bring in the human element, and all humans are flawed, and you just, I mean, I could go on for hours about some of the things that we dealt with that we shouldn't ever have had to deal with.
Yeah,
So
there's been a lot of it. Go ahead,
Tiffany, a quick follow-up to your question. Newcomers should be leery of pranksterism, and
Yes.
this can take many different forms. On the extreme end, there was a very famous historic home in Virginia that we investigated, where they had speakers hidden in the walls, and they were pumping in EVPs and ghostly sounds, and our scientific equipment caught that, but we haven't gone back to there since. And we've and at the other end of the spectrum, you have what LaDonna was suggesting, human nature. We had a case where a daughter and her boyfriend were trying to create a haunt to scare the grandmother into selling the house to them, and they had planted devices in the closet to make noise, and they were they were
using the ghost these ghost apps on phones.
Oh Lord!
To insert a ghost in a picture.
Photography in the house.
So newcomers should be leery of pranksterism too, because it's pretty common.
And the other thing, to bring up, a newcomer, if you're just, you got to figure out what you want to get out of it. What do you want? You want to experience something? Okay, then go experience something. Do you want to really find out what's going on? Well, then you need to have a theory, and then you need to design some kind of experiment to gather data around that theory. It's like, and an experiment doesn't require equipment even.
That's true.
You could just have a pen and a piece of paper and your own
You can just sit in a room and just experience.
So, but but it's a good idea to have a theory, as to what you're kind of looking for. But at the same time, though, you got to be careful with that, because you're going to insert confirmation bias. So you run a tricky, you're like riding the fence on that. It's like, well, people are reporting lady in white. Everywhere has a lady in white, I think, but you're reporting a lady in white, right? Well, we're going to try to get visual confirmation that something's there that looks like a lady in white somehow. And then we're going to gather all kinds of other data around it to see if we can figure out how that's manifesting, or why people are perceiving such a thing. Right. And that's in a nutshell, that's how we operate. But you got to know what you want to get out of it first. That's probably the biggest question. What do I want to get out of this? Yeah. And I'm not saying experiencers are wrong. There's a lot of people that want that thrill and stuff like that, and that's as far as they want to go with it. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. But but if you want something a little deeper, you're going to have to really sit and think about what you want to get out of it a little further along. If you get my drift.
Yeah. What I always tell people, I've been asked this question myself, and what I always tell people is, when I go into an investigation, I'm not looking for what is so-called haunting the people or the location. My first question is, and I say this to all the newbies who've asked me, I said, my first question is, why do the people at this location or this family believe they are being haunted? That's what I'm looking for. I think that's really important. Just making that simple mind shift can really change the whole outcome of the work you're doing.
Yeah. And my next question for you guys is about skepticism. So where does this fit in with ghost hunting when you guys do investigations or your research? And then tag off of that is, when is there not enough skepticism, like there's too little, and where you draw the line at going overboard with the skepticism?
Well, this has become a hot topic for me as of late, because a lot of people that I know that claim to be skeptics they're treating the skepticism as if it's a belief structure, which it really is. Even though they say, "Oh no, I don't have a belief structure." Oh yeah, you do, because you automatically believe that this is not anything anomalous, right? So, in talking to these people, I've started noticing that there's a big tendency to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're just going to throw that right out automatically. And it's like, well, wait a minute now. Can you explain? Because we're looking at minutia here. We're not looking at big things. Sometimes we get big things, but we're looking at minutia. it's like, can you explain that little piece of minutia right there with everything? And it's like, well, yeah, it's got to be this. It's like, how do you know that? Do you have the skill set to be able to say that's what it is?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and most don't. And so what we're doing, though, is we collect the data on that minutia, and then we seek out the skill sets that might be able to explain it to us, or we do the hardcore research into that particular skill set to be able to try to understand it. And a lot of time, you know, most of the time, you know, we figure out that it's natural or man-made or what have you out there, whatever weird anomalous thing we're getting. But sometimes, you know, the physics can't really explain this guy over here, or environmental science can't explain this guy over here, you know, this little piece over here. And when all of those correlate, that's when the aha moments happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, we've run into enough of those. You know, we had one where we were just, and a lot of this is accidental. Like most hard science is, a lot of discoveries are accidental. And, you know, when I was a chemist, we figured out stuff regarding catalyst that was totally by accident, and it made millions of dollars for the company. I didn't get a dime of. But but you know, the accident that we ran into one time was near that very door that Jack and I saw open. We had a line of a battery operated equipment right there, and we were going to give, like, we do these tours at this location and on occasion, and we show people what we do. That's what we do. And we talk about the stuff that this equipment has picked up at whatever spot that we stop at, right? Well, right in front of this door, we lined it up with various things. Like we had a magnetometer, we had temperature, barometric pressure, humidity sensors. We were running a battery drain experiment at the time, of which we found out that's bogus. But you know, we ran that for 7 years, and lo and behold, saw no battery drain, even though there was recorded perceived activity right on top of it. You know, no battery drain. So but anyway, we had all this stuff set up there, and we were downstairs, and all of a sudden we heard somebody run above us right near that door. So two of us run upstairs to where that equipment was, and lo and behold, it's all off, except for one piece, and it's a magnetometer. And it was that magnetometer was RF shielded, so it protected it. But what we found out was that it was RF shielded, and that it showed an electromagnetic pulse hit at the 100 Gauss level. That's huge. And it was a spike, huge spike hit right when all the equipment got turned off. Because you turn the equipment right back on, and lo and behold, it all worked. So whatever happened right there, and we saw a spike in ionizing radiation at the same time.
Wow.
So at that point, now that's sending us a direction around Einsteinian physics. You know, it's sending us down that rabbit hole. And but you know, that kind of thing right there is like the holy grail for us. Mm-hmm. You know, because we had the personal experience where we heard the running above us, and we got that on a recorder too, an audio recorder. And then, but the camera up there didn't show anything. So that right there is probably one of the biggest things that we've had happen, that I would say it correlates everything together for us and has pointed us in a particular direction. We did have an indication of those EMPs happen. We had one happen in another building on that same property, and the actual camera we had flared. The infrared on it flared right when the EMP hit. And that was significant right there. But we didn't have any other piece of equipment in there except for a magnetometer. But the camera, the IR camera, we had two IR cameras in there, and you could see one of them was showing the other one, and the camera closest to where the electromagnetic pulse happened had an infrared flare. All right, so go ahead, Jack.
So skeptics are always going to have a place, but they're a double-edged sword. And on the positive side, skeptics can keep ghost hunters honest. On the negative side, skeptics can interfere with the true pursuit of understanding.
Yes.
And so I think we have to be careful to keep skeptics in their proper perspective. And if they're checking the excess joy and randomness of ghost hunters who aren't really following protocols or doing anything that is legit, then great. But if they're interfering with the pursuit of knowledge, then they're actually a detriment to what we should be pursuing.
I was going to get there, Jack, I promise.
I think there's a difference between being a skeptic, which at least in my mind is a good thing, and being a debunker.
Mhm.
You know, and you know, I'll throw out examples. James Randi, debunker.
Mhm.
I have a particular interest in UAP. I have a significant interest in UAP. Mick West. You know, a UFO could literally abduct him from his front yard and it would still all be bogus. You know, despite the fact that you have all this evidence that says something is going on. It may not be aliens, but something anomalous is going on. And you're saying not only is it not aliens, but nothing anomalous is going on. It just flies in the face of mountains and mountains and mountains of data. So, yeah, I think when it gets into debunking, it's a problem.
And I'll just speak up for just a second. I personally, when I started with CPRI, I was looking for the truth. Okay, so what is this? Are ghosts real? That sort of thing. I was one of the more skeptic members when I first started. I'm still skeptical, but I'm trying to word this the correct way. Do I believe that ghosts are spirits of dead people? I have come to my own conclusion that that answer is no, because of things that we have discovered in our research. You know, that is just my opinion, but my skepticism has changed now. I do totally 100% believe that there is something going on out there. I think it's all connected. I think, you know, cryptids, you know, UAPs, whatever. I think they're all connected. But I don't believe in ghosts. So I think sometimes you're like ghosts of the traditional dead people that have passed over. I believe it's deeper than that. I believe that there's things, you know, really leaning towards the physics side of this. I'm learning a lot about the Einstein-Rosen bridge. Did I use that right?
Yeah, you did.
See, I'm learning. I'm 56 years old and still learning. And
You are teachable.
I am teachable.
Compared to Alan.
That, you know, I have been in public education for, you know, 35 years. But I just think you've got to find that balance. And I think the group that we have, there's not one person that dictates whether or not what we have is a good piece of evidence or not. You know, you have to be open-minded and you have to be willing to hear both things. This is unexplainable. We don't know what it is, or this was the wind. You have to be able to accept both answers.
And I think that's so hard in today's world because everybody wants to be right. And if you're not on my side, then you're 100% against me. And
you just brought up something. She's like, LaDonna just said, well, I don't think this is the ghost or the ghosts, air quotes again, are spirits of dead people. Now you ask me that question and I go, maybe.
Right.
I mean, because, you know, there's other fields. You know, you look at UVA's Center for
The division of
and what they're
studies,
doing with it. And you look more into what other places are doing with consciousness research. Could it be?
Mhm.
I think there's, I agree with Madonna that there's probably some sort of unified theory of the paranormal that connects a lot of these things, whether it's the aspects of the UAP stuff or the cryptid stuff or the ghost stuff. Could we be experiencing multiple things? Could it be surviving consciousness? Could it be, something, dare I say, like religious? I'll have to put that in quotes too. Could it be, some sort of manifestation of a physics process we don't fully understand? Could it be all of those things?
It could be. If you look at, that's what that lady was trying to get to that looked at our data. She was trying to get to that, there's like over 100 different causes for these anomalies we're seeing. And, anywhere from 5 to 10 of them could be happening at once.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, in the survey data, over 80% of Americans think the most likely explanation for ghosts is that they are dead people. And so whether that's true or not, we have to deal with the fact that a lot of people believe that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to, and if you follow the data and the data points that direction, then we're going to go that direction. Like I keep saying, we don't make it, Donna believes one way, Alan believes another, Jack believes another, and I believe another. But we got to follow the data. And it doesn't matter what we really believe. We got to follow the data.
Right.
So, and that's the only way you're going to get
your tongue.
To the
Bite
truth.
your tongue.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to throw out there. Oh, go ahead, Alan.
Tiffany, like you were saying, like today you can't get people to agree on things.
Right.
It's either it's black or it's white. You're for me or against me. That is one of the things that I enjoy most about this organization is the conversations that we have amongst ourselves. It was Jack and myself, 2 other members that went out to Tennessee for a side project that I won't bore you with, but and we had a whole weekend at an Airbnb, and I think over the course of a couple bottles of bourbon, we discussed everything. I mean, the conversations down the deep rabbit hole that we had with respect to paranormal phenomena and what we think or what we've observed or what may be or may not be, and we all come from different backgrounds and different belief structures, and the fact that we can have these conversations, and I genuinely get enormous amounts of joy out of it. So
that's great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like everybody, but I like these guys.
Yeah. And then to tie off of this real quick before Tiffany asks her next question is the one thing I'm noticing when it comes to skeptics, I do see a lot of wholehearted, diehard non-believers saying they're skeptics or disguising themselves as skeptics just to go out, and they don't even watch the full videos. They just start commenting trash and, kind of going off of what Jack was saying, without even reviewing the evidence themselves. Just constantly, throwing everything out without even looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm throwing Mick West under the bus again. I'll throw Neil deGrasse Tyson under the bus.
Yeah.
Well, he got rid of Pluto. I'm still mad about
that. No, he was forced to allow him back in as a dwarf planet. He didn't have a choice. And his explanation is totally, I'm not going to go there. Yeah. Anyways. I'm Team Pluto. If you,
I picked up on that. Pluto as well.
So I want to go back to this data because you guys have you've been talking about it a whole lot. How do you? And I know you guys don't do. You're not doing private residences anymore, but you still are going to locations and you are dealing with people who are. I assume they are working at these locations and they still are having experiences. How do you how are you still sensitive to people's experiences that they are having because it's so true to them, and still finding a way to, or is there a way that you're bridging their experiences while still being able to kind of have that separation and be able to collect the data that you need? Am I making sense? Like, because you're dealing with humans, but you're also, I guess you kind of have to be like a surgeon, like a doctor, going into surgery. Okay, this is a human on the table, but I need to do my work now. Like, how do you find a way to do that?
I
can
gotta
take
say
that
hello to
from
my
the
daughter. She's been gone and all day, and she's going to be gone all day for the entire week.
Oh no.
I won't see her until like 9 or 10 o'clock at night every day. So she's in a musical and stuff. So
Oh, that's awesome.
love you.
that is one smart kid, and it's all her mom's doing.
Yeah, it's all her mom. It's not has
All
nothing to
her
do with
mom.
me. Her mom is a smart one, so she gets her smart genes from her mother.
Hi, Abby.
Hi, Abby.
They're saying hello to you.
So, Tiffany, I have an answer to that, but I'm running to get another refill. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'd look at it from the standpoint of like how we might treat witnesses in a crime.
Okay.
Some witnesses are going to be more credible than others.
Mhm.
Some witnesses are going to be more detailed than others. Some are going to be more reliable than others. And depending on where those things fall, will influence how much that information is of value. But, if somebody says, I experienced this, particularly if all the everything points to the fact that these are credible, serious people, and we're dealing with, for the most part, because, you're talking about staff at these places, they're credible, serious people, oftentimes pretty well credentialed and tenured, serious people. So if they tell me I experienced this, I believe them.
Mhm.
I'm not going to question them. Does it mean that it's paranormal? No.
Right.
But they perceived something, genuinely perceived it, and to them it was anomalous.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna, if like Tiffany, you just saw Abby, right? You just saw my daughter. So if you told me that and I didn't realize that she was standing behind me, I'd believe you. I might question your sanity in my head, but I would believe you that you think you saw it.
Right.
And that perception is super important, because if you perceive something, that means that something had to be there to help foster that perception, to help trigger that perception. So that's kind of the route that I look at.
Okay.
I want to figure out why you saw what you saw, or why you heard what you heard, why you felt what you felt, that kind of thing.
And, one way we use reports of activity from the people in the buildings we use for our research, sometimes that will help us pinpoint where we need to put, our equipment. It's always helpful to know where the most supposedly active location is. But what we usually find out is if we go to that effort, we're actually experiencing things in other areas of the building. And so we've just discovered it's just better to just equip the entire building, which is why we run cords and wires for hours to set up and hours to back out. But I think we really work hard at developing relationships with the owners and the caretakers of the properties we go into. We've established a reputation that we can be trusted. We're allowed to go into locations where there's, very expensive antiques and all that, but our professionalism and our just the way that we even interact with the staff and, the people that are allowing us into these buildings, we're extremely grateful. And we want to be respectful to them and their property.
I think that's so important because I've heard some horror stories about
Yep.
people, supposedly very well-known people going into locations and just trashing places. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that
it's
would-
horrible.
I mean, we could never do something like that. First of all, we wouldn't, but
Right.
you know, we would lose all access to
Mhm.
any of these great locations that we currently have the privilege of going into.
Yeah.
And you know, touching on something a while back when we started talking about, you know, you might get in trouble, you know, like if you don't, you know, the whole litigation thing is a serious risk. And there's actually some states are looking at regulating this kind of like paranormal investigators as if they're private investigators.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which legally is not a stretch.
no, and the problem there is, I mean, if that happens, yes, it's going to get rid of a lot of chaff, you know. But at the same time, it's also going to limit what you're going to be able to do, and and I think it might limit the field. We're actually, for us, we don't like to use the term investigation. Or we're actually conducting research because we're not really doing an investigation. We're conducting research. We're collecting a lot of data, audio, video, environmental, you name it. We're collecting a lot of data when we go to a site. So, and we also do it, we try to do it without being in the building. You know, we might be in the building to set everything up. We leave, we go outside to a tent or an RV or whatever, U-Haul truck, whatever we happen to have. And then we watch it for a while. We'll send some people in to see if they have any personal experiences while they're in there. And then they come out and we sit and we watch it for a while longer, you know, and there's a whole lot of that kind of thing. So it's a passive data collection for us.
I see.
You know, we don't try to interact with anything. We don't do, and if when we're in, what we have found is anecdotally, if we talk among ourselves inside of one of these buildings, the anomalous voices occur more often, way more often than if somebody's interacting with something in there.
I found that too. Yeah.
So what we do is we just collect all that data and then we go back and start trying to correlate stuff. And what's really cool though is that we have so much data from so many different avenues that for some theories, we don't even need to go collect more data. We just got to look at what we already have.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, we're over 3.2 terabytes of data now. And, you know, and we're lucky we've got the storage space we've got because we have 100 terabytes of storage space, but three terabytes in 15 years since I've been on it. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, the whole litigation thing that I was bringing up, that one thing that Alan and I went down, and we were the ones when Donna brought up where the person had the traumatic brain injury. Alan and I were the two that went to try to help these people, and lo and behold, that had lawsuit written all over it. Oh my gosh! Because when we got there was nothing. The one thing we found that they could correct was they had one of those 1970s era digital clocks that had the numbers that flip.
Oh, wow.
And it was giving off, it was pegging our magnetometer,
Off
just
the charts,
pegging
yeah.
off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right next to the guy's head where he slept.
Mm-hmm.
And once they moved that, lo and behold, he stopped seeing the thing at the end of his bed.
Wow.
So, you know, there's all kinds of things that's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
That's why doing a home like that, you better be prepared legally. You better be prepared ethically. You've got to be 100% prepared before you go into somebody's home like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me get off my soapbox.
Jack wanted to add something.
I was just going to say, and I noticed that I'm starting to get a black eye. My dog and I were wrestling tonight, and he head bashed me, and now I'm starting to see I'm getting a black eye. That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
I have a border collie who is just so crazy. But as a sociologist, getting back to your question about how to deal with people who sincerely believe something that you have reason to be skeptical about, or science to believe that maybe that's not an accurate way to interpret the situation. My training as a sociologist helps me with that, because I understand that when people believe something, that becomes a literal truth to them. For example, if you believe in God, you will arrange your life and live your life in a certain way because of that belief. And if you believe you have had an encounter with a ghost or seen a ghost, even if I have reason to believe that that's not true and that that's something else that's going on, part of what makes us unique as an organization is that we have developed the people skills and the communication skills to work with people and to take that into account. And that's part of why we don't do private residence anymore. But even with some of the historical places, we have lots of firsthand accounts of people seeing things, experiencing things, and having these personal experiences. And if a person genuinely believes that that's what's happened, that's going to shape the way they behave and the way they interpret other things in that environment. And so I don't think we can discount it, not because it's true or false, but because to that person it is true, and we need to be sensitive to that and also take that into account with our research design, as Brad was saying much earlier.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. And going off the science side, we do have one question in the comments, but I have one that I want to make sure that we touch on before we end, but we still have 45 minutes, is for me, my ultimate goal, I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, is to see paranormal research a true scientific area of study. What do you think, as kind of a two-part question, why do you think that it's being rejected as a true science? And what does the field need to do to make paranormal studies taken more serious with universities?
I'm just going to throw out a flippant answer right now. Stop identifying bugs as ghosts on cameras. But seriously, like the stuff that I don't think the general public or most people even realize that there's people or there's groups that are taking a scientific approach and that they're, really taking this seriously. And we're really trying to get down to get to the bottom of things, and that, you've got to have some discernment, right? Like you can't like go back to the skeptic and the, throw everything out or believe in everything. You've got to prove that you understand the scientific method, the procedures, the equipment, that you conduct yourself in a professional way. Unfortunately, in pop culture these days, a lot of these paranormal shows, you're not seeing professional behavior. You're not seeing people that you would welcome into your place of business or your historical location and trust them with things. But we talk about this all the time about when could we be recognized as a legitimate science, that what we're doing is legit scientific.
Well, we're gradually getting that kind of recognition. At least our finances are showing that. We're getting donations, and it's really neat that people are taking us seriously. I think what we've run into, the spiritualism thing back in the 1800s. It started off as a real pursuit in trying to find, these were hardcore science people trying to find out what the heck was going on, right? And then the charlatans came in.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happened, the science took a massive hit to the eye, just like Jack did with his dog, and took a massive black eye there. And after that, ever since then, it's just been a fear in academia,
Mhm.
you know, it's like the death nail to your career in academia if you go and pursue this, unless you are in psychology.
Mhm.
And that's interesting too, because Orion Institute's still around. You know,
Right.
the SPR is still there. You know, that organization, DOPS, Division of Perceptual Studies at UVA, they're all looking at it from a psychological standpoint and a near-death experience standpoint, things like that, that the human brain perception is what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And if you do that, go that route, it's already being taken seriously in academic circles.
Mhm.
It's the things that like go bump in the night that are not being taken seriously. And it's because of what happened when the charlatans came in. And we have the same thing happening now. There was a big resurgence when ghost hunters first came on the air. Everybody wanted to go and find out what was going on. You got to think, ghost hunters originally, they rarely caught any kind of evidence on the
Right.
show. They originally in the first season and stuff, they were like proving that this wasn't a ghost kind of thing most of the time. And but there was a resurgence where people got real interested. Well, as soon as that happened, your average idiot charlatan would pop his head in there and try to make a buck off the ignorance of the American public.
Mhm.
And I'm back on my soapbox again. But that's what they did. And now because of that, academia is backing off from it, from the hard science part of it all again. The anomaly to this is Jack.
No,
Jack actually, you teach a course in death and dying and stuff up in where you are. And
well, and I slightly disagree, because I think that those gates are slowly inching open. And of course, the University of Virginia and their Division of Perceptual Studies is like the poster child for this, because they're studying near-death experiences, and they're studying children who have memories of past lives and all kinds of interesting things. But there are some other medical schools and universities who are starting to, break through into this area as well. And at my university, just to give you a quick example, they're a Catholic school. And when I interviewed for my job, they said, "Can you come give a lecture to a classroom of students?" And I said, "Sure. Do you want me to talk about disability compliance policy? Do you want me to talk about social capital and the influence of artificial intelligence? Or do you want to talk about my study about ghost hunters?" And they're like, "Ghost hunters, come and talk about ghost hunters."
Wow.
And I got the job. And so what I'm
he's the
learning,
anomaly. I told you, he's the anomaly.
and so I think that door is cracking open. I think it is. If you look at publications like Popular Mechanics, they went from being about really cool gizmos you could add to your car in the 70s to now they're about proof of life after death. And they're quoting and writing with serious scientists. And so I think that door is cracking open. But I think the danger that Brad has alluded to is that there is enough quackery to go around, and it can really mess things up quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever going to get like a university that offers a degree in paranormal studies, for example. But if you look over again at the UAP field, you have engineers of varying stripes, be it people with backgrounds in energy or aerodynamics, et cetera, that are going, wow, that's interesting, and I want to look into that. Same with the ghost thing. Like UVA is come back to that great example. People that have PhDs and MDs, psychology, medicine, etc. They go, wow, that's interesting. We want to look into that. So I don't think you're ever going to have any sort of degree program outside of the, a class here and a class there, kind of like Jack teaches a class in folklore, for example. But I think you will, and I think you are increasingly attracting people in a variety of academic fields that say, wow, that's interesting. I want to look into it. I think you see it more in the UAP side of things than on the ghost side of things at the moment, but it's certainly there.
Well, on the ghost side of things, it's saturated. I mean, it is just absolutely saturated, and the vast majority of the stuff out there. And I'm just going to say it. And I have friends in the entertainment world. They're going to throw rocks at me, but I think it's crap. And I really think that it's really doing what we do a disservice.
It is, yeah.
And it makes me sometimes it makes me angry because we're trying to find out what's going on, and I am the grumpy old man in the room, and we're trying to figure out what's going on, and we can't because we're being stymied by what's going on in the media, in you name it. These people that go into these same locations that we might happen to go into to collect data have gone in and they've made statements. Oh yeah, it's got a demon in this closet. There's a portal to hell over here, and it's crazy, and it really, really beats us up sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what we're doing has more value, but Zach Bagans,
you're not biased or anything,
himself in the Indiana Demon House is that's sexy to the general public.
Yeah, instant gratification. People want that too, and what we do is not instant gratification, because we'll collect data and then it takes us weeks to sort through it just to get a preliminary review, and then even after that we're doing these deep dives. I'm still doing deep dives in data we collected in 2022, so it's a lengthy process, and you guys well know that any scientific endeavor is going to take a long time. Most of the time it's going to take a long time.
Yep. Yeah. So we do have two questions that I want to make sure we get to before we go, and it looks like Jack has already been responding to some of them, so I'll post his answers as well. But Anton wants to know, are you guys keeping a database or a data store of the visual evidence cross-referenced with analog evidence?
The quick answer is yes. And of course, Jack puts it up there. But we have plenty of data. It's actually we're using Google Workspace, and that 100 terabytes is there that we store everything on, and we have a text database that cross references with the actual hard data database, and that's really great. Plus, we're using things. Believe it or not, I'm using Notebook LM right now to go ahead and do a review of some of our numerical data. It's in tables. And because let me tell you, when there's millions of lines of data in a spreadsheet, my eyes glaze over. And we have to share data in the community. Yes, you're right. We do. And people have asked us to see data, and we give them read-only access to the data they're looking for. We don't give just carte blanche, go and root around in this database, because we could lose data at that point. We got to give them read-only.
And the other thing is, the data always has to be situated in context.
Yes.
And if we give you data from a location for one investigation, but we've actually been to that place 36 times, you don't have the context for that data.
That's right.
So it's really important that we share data, but that we do it within, the right scientific context.
That's right. And that's when we generate that context by actually, performing reproducibility, like we do. We go back to each location and reproduce the experiments over and over and over again, and we get the reproducibility that is required, in any kind of scientific endeavor. So that gives us the context that Jack is referring to. Just the sheer fact that we're able to go there. We know the building inside and out. We understand the nuances of the thing. We understand that there might be rats. Oh, sorry, Alan. And Alan's got an allergy to rats.
I was going to say, I think there was a comment about that earlier in here somewhere.
I saw that too.
Unusually large rodents.
Yes. But, but we have that context that Jack's talking about. And you can actually get a handle on that if you look at the text database along with the all the other data that we have, the audio, video, all the numerical data we have in tables.
Even the personal experiences.
Yes, even the personal experiences, because those go in the text database.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes we have audio recordings of interviews from that stuff. We just went to a location in Northern Virginia where, in the land of where LaDonna's run into her crazy people. But we went to a location up there that we've gone to before, and we've collected data, and they're very nice. They're great to deal with, and they're very, they like us being there, as a matter of fact. But we interviewed them and on a have an audio recording of them with all their personal experiences. So we have all that stuff too.
And then Linda wants to know, has anyone started a type of dictionary that correlates the way people say the same thing with different words?
That correlates the way people say the same thing with different words.
And then, of course,
Way to
Jack.
go, Jack.
I think Jack's typing his answers because you guys aren't giving him a chance to talk.
Is that it? But,
No, I'm trying to just respond to the people in the comments area, and we have developed just recently. Some of our younger members had been working on not a dictionary, but a kind of shared terminology to talk about different kinds of anomalies and different kinds of experiences. And so that is definitely something we're trying to do, because again, as a sociologist, two people can see the same thing and describe it in very different ways. And we want to make sure that we know we're talking about the same thing. And so we don't have a dictionary per se, but we are definitely trying to work on that common language to talk about the anomalous things that we're studying.
and that helps.
A great example.
Go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say a great example would be residual.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's
it
kind
comes
of a
up all the
misnomer.
time. Well, would you say this is a residual haunting? Well, we can't say that residual is a thing. There's nothing. There's no evidence there, right? I know what you mean when you're saying that, but is it the appropriate term? No.
Yeah, because residual kind of implies an imprint on the environment, and that's been left there by something that's happened in the past, and we can't say that. We can say, there's non-interactive type activity, or there's interactive type of activity, and that's basically the only things we can really say. You were talking about how people using different terminology for different things. We have a situation right now where we're actually collecting the very data that you see on the Skinwalker Ranch show.
Mm-hmm.
The same results that they're getting.
Wow.
It's amazing. And it's very similar to what people get when encrypted reports, and also what people get when they see UAP type things. So this data. The problem is that the UAP field and the paranormal field and the cryptid world all speak like almost different languages. So finding that common language is key, and trying to translate that across is like that. If you watch Skinwalker Ranch, they have all the different stuff happen. They got UAP, they got cryptid, they got what looks like paranormal stuff. And so,
and Brad, talk about why they won't share data and the importance of sharing it.
Well, I think the reason they won't share data is because they're under an NDA, and they've still got episodes to go. So they're not going to share that data out like that unless we pay, because they're behind a paywall. You can get to some of the data, but not all of it. you can only get to some of the stuff, which are actually, it's not really data. It's like results of experiments. And so you can get to that, but that's all behind a paywall. You know, kind of like, you know, the medical type, I can't remember the site name now, where you can go and you got to pay and you get like different medical research from and that kind of stuff. It's that kind of thing. And you go to a paywall and to get it. But, you know, the importance of sharing that, though, we could probably be, if everybody would share it, we would probably be 10 years down the road further than we are now. Mm-hmm. And figuring out what's going on. Because, you know, in the cryptid world doesn't like the paranormal world. And the UAP world doesn't like either of us, you know, the paranormal world or the cryptid world. It's kind of, it's crazy. And even though the same kind of data is being collected, it's the same stuff. And we were lucky. We actually had, know some people in MUFON that in Northern Virginia, the Mutual UFO Network, that you know, are kind of leaning the same way that we are. That there's correlation there between the two fields. And then we actually ran into a Bigfoot hunter that is thinking the same thing.
It's all connected.
It is. And so that, you know, and when Alan mentioned the unified paranormal theory, that's something that's been in my back pocket for probably 15 years. And now we have the data to show it. The correlations are there. We just got to get enough of the correlations now to make it statistically significant. So you understand that. But we just got to get that. And that's always fun. Mm-hmm. Not, but
I have Heather, I have one last question for them.
Yep, we still got about 20 minutes.
Oh, cool. Do you guys think paranormal research should shift its focus and not focus so much on the existence on proving the existence of the paranormal and focus more on how and why humans are having the experiences?
I would say yes to that, because that's kind of, we're trying to figure out why people perceive what they perceive. And there's got to be something there, because they've been submitting reports of this for thousands of years. So there's got to be something there. But trying to, I think that, you know, I keep talking about following the data. I cannot say more about that. It's, you know, actually I could say more about it, but I'm not going to. You know, just follow the data. You know, that's the direction we need to be going.
So we did a brief experiment, which we haven't been able to follow up on, where a human subject agreed to be in a so-called haunted location and was hooked up to biometrics, and we found that their nervous system and their brain was reacting to potentially paranormal things in the environment faster than their conscious level could report them. And so we were immensely intrigued by that, because it would suggest that things like when the hair stands up on your arm or the back of your neck, that your physical system is recognizing something strange happening before your conscious brain with the five senses is taking it in through sight or smelling it or whatever. And I think we are ultimately going to be led down that road a little more, to finding out what makes us, not only through the five senses, but some way uniquely as human beings, really in tune with what people call paranormal, but what you could call many things. And so that's something that we are currently trying to design research around in an ethical way and to pursue. And it's not the same as personal experiences, because everybody in our group essentially has had personal experiences. This is more about how humans physiologically react to the paranormal or the unknown. And so that's potentially going to be an avenue we're going to be exploring in coming years.
That's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing your findings on that.
Yeah, that made me think about Jack when we were out in Tennessee doing that project, which, in full disclosure, there was 4 of us that went out there to check out an area that had both UAP and Bigfoot reports. And one of the members, when we're sitting there doing an observation of this area, it was an old graveyard in front of us, and he goes, something like a shadow went from right to left, and he's like, I don't know what I saw, but that was really weird. And he's wearing a smartwatch, and he's like, I'm not sure if I saw it. I don't know what I just saw. I'm not sure what I saw, but his heart rate spiked at the exact minute he saw that. So he clearly perceived something that had a physiological effect. Whether or not what he perceived was paranormal, we don't know.
Ooh, Anton has a good question before we close it out. Anything related with the discussions on the pineal gland?
Oh my, that is above my pay grade.
It's above my pay grade. I'm a sociologist, not a physiologist.
Actually,
we do know that it impacts people physiologically just from this one experiment we did.
We do have a medical doctor on staff. That would be a great question for her.
Yes, it would be.
She's a doctor of internal medicine. That would be a great question.
She's actually conducting a series of experiments using EEG, portable EEG device, and trying to, seeing what happens with the brain around the perception, kind of similar to what we were doing with other vital signs in the experiment Jack was referring to, but she's using an EEG to measure the brain waves. So we have a skill set. We have skill sets from all over, from physics and engineering to chemistry to medical sciences to police officers, fire department, electrical engineers, just a whole gambit of things.
You're forgetting HVAC to determine where cold spots are.
Yeah. But anyway, we have a breadth of skill sets in our organization. There's 35 now, I think, in the organization that stretches from one end of the state to the other. Plus, we also have one of our newer people was the assistant to the chief scientist for the International Space Station for several years, and now she's working for NASA in low Earth orbit stuff. So she's one of our newer members. And so we like I said, we try to get the skill sets into the organization that can help with what we're trying to do. That's the key, So we got Alan too, but that was a fluke. But
you're stuck.
Yeah, I know, we're stuck.
Yeah. And we do have about 15 minutes left, and I want to close with one quick question before we start closing everything out. Is everyone being evidence and science focused for the majority of the part, do you think that part of the field is afraid, or even part of the world is afraid of what science might uncover when it's in relation to the paranormal field?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That took up the last 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Well,
I think people are still afraid that somehow science will prove that there is no God, that there is no afterlife, that there is no talking to grandma beyond the grave. And I think that fear is a realistic fear, and it's not a reason to stop science, because I think science is going to explain a lot of the anomalies that we encounter. But I think it's also a human thing to be a little bit frightened of the idea that, like, I think it was Plato who said, once you die, you're gone, and you won't know you're gone. So what difference does it make? And people are like, okay, but that doesn't feel good now when I'm alive. And so I think, people are going to maintain a healthy fear of the unknown, even if science starts to explain some of these things, because I think that's in our nature to want to be more than just, birth and death.
Yeah, very well put, Jack.
Yeah, I never thought of it as people being afraid of what the answer could be. So I appreciate that question. I never looked at it that way. But yeah, I that was a great answer, Jack. Good.
It's like, if we have any flat earthers on the call, I mean, it must be awful painful for them almost every day,
Yeah. Send hate mail to Brad Bradley at CPRI.
Yeah, that's it.
I know people that are, like evangelicals, for example, and all this stuff is demonic.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, no, I don't think so. Have I, in doing this for as long as I have, and again, I don't go to church every Sunday, but I consider myself a person of faith. I come from that Anglo-Catholic tradition. I've encountered things, both in experiences and in data that have both challenged and reinforced my personal beliefs. And what we get out of data doesn't threaten my beliefs. Unfortunately, I think those of us that feel that way are probably in the minority. But I think we can bring people along. Science and the spiritual or the religious or whatever you want to call it, they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Right.
Exactly.
I think, things can coexist.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the details and the mechanisms. I know that probably sounds as clear as mud, but I have a strong faith that both those things can exist in the same space and shouldn't threaten each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Alan, just to verify what you're saying, in higher education, people think that theology and physics will be taught in the same department in 20 years.
They could be.
Mm-hmm.
They could be. I mean, something that might be a bona fide religious miracle may just be some means of manipulating physics.
Mm-hmm.
Or the physics rabbit hole may go deeper.
Yeah.
Yep. And who knows?
It's not necessarily magic, it's physics, but the more we look into physics, the more physics seems like magic.
Yeah, it's because we're going down that Einstein-Rosen bridge hole right now, and
or you get into quantum entanglement and all that stuff. I mean, that seems like magic, but it's not. It's physics.
Yeah, I mean, in doing the Einstein-Rosen bridge research that we've been kind of doing, it's almost like, well, maybe that's an actual. I hate to use the word. I really hate to use the word because I get so disgusted with people that use it incorrectly. It could be a portal where something can actually reach through.
At the pump house in Richmond.
Do I now?
At the pump house in Richmond.
Yeah, there you go.
I use a sparkly light machine and a vacuum.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's what we need. But anyway, I mean, who knows? We don't know what that if that's actually happening, because nobody's ever really seen one or experienced one. We've got data that seems to indicate it could be, maybe.
Wow.
We're trying to, there might be other reasons for it, but it'd be awfully coincidental for all these 4 or 5 things to happen all at once. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But, who's to say that that's not a way for a spiritual entity to reach through and touch this realm? Who knows? I have no idea. Now I'm speaking a language that I normally don't speak. So, but yeah, and I keep going back to following the data. If the data points that direction, we're going to go there. Mm-hmm. And that's just the route. That's just the way we work.
Well, great conversation tonight, guys. I do really appreciate each and every one of you for joining us tonight. Real quick, before I start wrapping up the show, can you let everyone know how to find you guys?
Yeah, you can find us on the web at centerpri.org. And that's our website, but we're also the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation on Facebook as well. Okay. So you can find us on both.
501c3 nonprofit.
That's right.
With an educational and research mission.
That's right. And that's what we're doing. We're an academic research organization, is what the IRS calls us. So
I'll make sure that I share everything on our page. We do have an album on our page where we put all of our past guests and all the contact information on how to reach out to them. So anybody can go to that and find you guys. And would love to have you guys on later this year. I can check our calendar. This was a great conversation. And I know we didn't even scratch the surface of what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So hopefully
sure. Well,
we can have you guys
glad.
back on.
We're glad to come back.
Yes.
Yeah, and we didn't get to talk about grandma and the bedside visit. So, I mean, there's a lot left.
Yes. Yep. And actually, speaking of coming back on the show next week, Brad Bradley will be back with a presentation on paranormal physics.
You didn't get enough of him? Oh my God.
I told you we missed him at the beginning of the show. He left Ghost Education 101, and we're kind of,
he's going to have to get a whole new set of headphones just to fit on his head.
Yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'll be back. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about some Einsteinian physics that I kind of alluded to in this one. So
yeah, I would love to hear it.
Looking forward to that. And then make sure you guys all mark your calendars for Sunday's recap and paranormal chit chat. It'll be on February 22nd. And then we have special guest David Oman on February 25th. He'll be joining us to share some information about some more recent experiences he's had regarding Shannon Tate. As always, you can find us at Ghost Education 101 on Facebook, if I can get this to work. You can subscribe and catch us on YouTube every week as well. And I'm not even going to bring it up, but you guys know our website's coming. ghosteducation101.com will be coming soon once we get that all up and running. So again, thank you to our guests for joining us tonight. And thank you to everybody who joined us on the show. We look forward to seeing you next week. You guys all have a great night.
Thank you guys.
Right. Thank you all.
Bye.